Okay, let's go ahead and get started with the updated briefing. Just added a slide very quickly there before at the last minute. So bottom line, things continue to improve for Southeast Texas. The track looks even a bit further east than what we briefed this morning. So tropical storm watches were dropped for the Texas coast from High Island on south. The storm track has continued to shift east, looking for minimal impacts for southeast Texas. Still, however, expecting minor to moderate coastal flooding for coastal areas overnight and Wednesday. So let's talk about this now. Again, what has changed? The tropical storm watches, which are for the winds, have been dropped for the Texas coast from High Island on south. And so that includes our entire local forecast area. We still do have tropical storm warnings offshore, and we'll talk about that in a moment. Still looking at that minor to moderate coastal flooding around times of high tide tonight and Wednesday morning, with a second time of concern for the north-facing beaches on the barrier islands. As the winds shift to more northerly with the storm pulling away, sometimes we can get water piling up on the bay side there. At the Gulf Coast now, we're expecting winds 25 to 30 miles per hour with gusts to 35 miles per hour at the height of the storm. So still windy with the storm passing offshore tomorrow, just not up to tropical storm force wind levels. Looking at some scattered rain showers tonight and tomorrow as the storm passes by. Generally not a significant amount of rainfall. However, we could still get some isolated heavier downpours. Not really expecting much in the way of flooding, but if it were to occur, would be isolated in nature and near the coast. Francine now forecast to make landfall as a Category 1 hurricane across the south central or southeast Louisiana coast. So that is a little bit down from what they had earlier as a Cat 2. Here's a look at the wind and coastal flood warnings, the updated information. You can see we have a small craft advisory for the bays and the coastal waters, where those were tropical storm watches earlier. They're now small craft advisories. Looking offshore between 20 and 60 nautical miles, we still have that tropical storm warning. That's where the winds are still going to be tropical storm force. You can see the details there described on the slides. Seas 11 to 16 feet in the marine area. So this is still going to be a very significant marine event. We don't want to lose sight of that. And still, the coastal flooding is a concern. Even though the water, the push-up of water may be not quite as high, we do get waves hitting the beaches, the Gulf side beaches, and that effectively adds to the impact. So areas like Bolivar, Surfside, even Sargent, those areas could still see some issues from the surf and the elevated tides. Here's a look at the satellite loop over the last few hours. You see that red area kind of bursting there over the center of circulation. That's an indication that the storm may be trying to intensify again. So although it's sort of held in check the last 24 hours, as storms wrap around the center, that may indicate intensification. The system has been wrapping in dry air periodically, so actually last night it kind of dissipated to some extent or became more disorganized. So that's why the Hurricane Center is capping it now at a Cat 1, thinking it will be struggling with that dry air and increasing wind shear as it gets close to the coast. On the right-hand side, you see we have a couple of buoy observations showing 12 feet down the coast and 7 feet off of Galveston. So some of those high seas are already coming out of the hurricane, which is still well south of there, of course. And we expect those high seas to to push toward the coast and contribute to our coastal flood issues, as well as beach erosion. Also shown on the right-hand side, wind gusts in miles per hour. So if you look carefully, there's a 54 mile per hour wind gust down the coast, closer to the center, and in our coastal areas now, 20 to 30. So, and these are in miles per hour. So again, already a bit breezy out there. It's going to get more so as we go through the night and tomorrow. We get those wind gusts up toward 35 miles per hour, perhaps at the coastline. You can see the rainfall prediction here. It's really come down, as you know, the last few days. This is based on that track shifting east. So we talked about that even on Sunday. If the track were to track more easterly, it would really cut our rainfall amounts, and that indeed seems to be the case. The light green area there, just 1 to 2 inches, mainly at the coast. And there could be some scattered showers even further inland. But again, the threat of flooding rains is really coming down. Here's a look at the forecast cone. This may look a little different than what we've briefed the past few days. You see some additional colors on there. This is a new experimental forecast cone which shows the inland warnings. So before it was a little stripe along the coast. Now you see more detail as far as the wind impacts inland as well. And what you see is really nothing along our coastal areas as far as tropical wind warnings. And as I said, the tropical storm watches have been dropped. So that's what you're seeing there. But if you look at Louisiana by contrast, we've got hurricane warnings in red, tropical storm warnings in blue, and there's even a small area of tropical storm warning and hurricane watch together. So our neighbors to the east look to be catching the worst of this one. Peak storm surge, this is a kind of big picture view from the Hurricane Center. You can see the tremendous storm surge forecast for Louisiana, showing there 1 to 3 feet for our area down to Freeport. In truth, we're thinking more like 1 to 2 feet all the way down to Matagorda Bay. Again, a combination of the rising water level, but also the wave action on top of that. Move forward here. I'm going to jump forward. Very little threat of tornadoes. That's not a concern with this storm. Now, focusing on the marine area now. This is just a little bit of a different presentation showing the forecast track pushed 15 to 20 miles east of even where it was this morning. The blue area is the area of tropical storm force winds based on the Hurricane Center forecast. So you can see even the nearshore waters now of the Gulf may not see tropical storm force winds. And that's the reason now for shifting the tropical storm warning over the waters to be limited to the 20 to 60 nautical miles offshore stripe. And for the mariners, don't take the dropping of the tropical storm watch to mean safe conditions. We've got building seas. We saw a little bit of that even in the latest buoy observations. Increasing east to northeast winds, and very gusty conditions out there. A very rough sea state. Rain bands can't rule out isolated water spouts. So for the marine community, it's not at all clear by any means. So key takeaways here: the tropical storm watches, which are for the wind, have been dropped for the Texas coast from High Island south. As we hinted at, they might be dropped this morning. We're still looking, though, at some gusty winds, just not quite to that level, and some minor to even moderate coastal flooding and beach erosion. Look for those Gulf-facing beaches to be impacted by high seas, high water levels. Some minor to even moderate coastal flooding is possible. Again, those wind gusts still pretty stout, 25 to 30 with gusts to 35. but not quite to tropical storm force winds with that system tracking so far to the east. Scattered rain showers expected. Really not thinking about flooding at this point. It would be a very low probability thing, we think, but not certainly can't rule it out near the coast. And forecast to now be a Cat 1 at landfall. Intensity forecasting very challenging, and with this drier air wrapping in, that has caused the Hurricane Center to kind of back off a little bit. They were forecasting a Cat 2 at landfall earlier. And forecast confidence is higher now as the storm is making a northeast movement, and the models are pretty consistent now in tracking it up into south central or southeast Louisiana.